Miss Mabel's son, Aiden Mabel, died on the property in 1990 from a drowning incident. The documents and writings found at the scene were written in an unidentified language and are currently being analyzed.
Let's go.
Miss Mabel was discovered deceased inside one of the rooms. Her body was found upright in a rocking chair, clutching a figure made of sticks and leaves. Judging from initial reports, Miss Mabel had been dead a matter of months. That is honestly all we know at this point. If you have any information, please do not hesitate to contact the
Police Department, may I help you? Can I help you?
In 1994, a phone call rang at the Texas State Police Department, its shrill tones echoing through the quiet halls. The line was open, yet there was nothing but an eerie silence on the other end. Undeterred, the determined officers used their resources to trace the origin of the call, leading them to a calculated address. What awaited them was an old, weather-worn house, seemingly abandoned and forgotten by time. Its exterior gave away nothing of the mysteries hidden within, and as they cautiously stepped through the threshold, a palpable sense of mysticism settled upon each officer, shrouding them in an inexplicable unease. In 1983, the Mabel family embarked on their journey in pursuit of a dream of a large bustling family with laughter filling every room. Travis and Olivia Mabel envisioned a life where their children could roam freely, reveling in the boundless outdoors. Their firstborn, a son named Aiden, arrived, filling their home with joy and promise. This newfound parenthood prompted the Mabels to seek out a spacious residence on a ranch in the serene town of Salina, Texas. They believed it to be an idyllic setting for Aiden to thrive and for their future children to flourish. As the years unfolded, the family prioritized the nurturing of their cherished firstborn. Aiden basked in the warmth of his parents' love, receiving every ounce of care and attention they could bestow. The ranch, expansive and teeming with nature's wonders, became his playground, a canvas for his youthful adventures. On the fateful morning of March 13, 1990, Aiden, as was his routine, ventured outside to embrace the day's adventures. With the setting sun as their clock, Travis and Olivia anticipated Aiden's return for dinner. When the minutes stretched into hours, worry crept into their hearts, yet they clung to the hope that their spirited son had simply lost track of time in his play. It wasn't an unusual occurrence after all, as Aiden's youthful exuberance often led him on extended escapades through the neighborhood. As twilight descended, dread hung heavy in the air. Near their home, in the fading light, Travis and Olivia's world shattered. They discovered their precious Aiden, lifeless in the petite seasonal pond on the premises, a cruel twist of fate, claiming their only child. The pond that had once been a source of wonder, had transformed into a heart-wrenching abyss. The loss of their cherished son tore at the fabric of their once happy family, and their union, once a sanctuary of shared dreams, now crumbles under the weight of grief. In the aftermath, Travis sought solace in a distant horizon, hoping for a fresh start and a reprieve from the haunting memories. Olivia, however, found herself ensnared by the suffocating grip of sorrow, and the ranch became both her sanctuary and her prison. Enduring this unimaginable tragedy plunged Olivia into profound grief, riddled with self-reproach and an unwillingness to accept reality. She gradually distanced herself from friends, her career, and her husband, ultimately culminating in a divorce in early 1991. After remarrying and relocating to New England, Travis lost contact with Olivia after just a few months. She withdrew from the world, her existence reduced to mere whispers in the winds that swept across the plains. The once vibrant connections to friends and family withered, replaced by a desolate silence. Even sustenance arrived as silent offerings, left at her doorstep by the hands of nameless delivery workers. Concerned loved ones reached out, letters were written and calls were made, but Olivia's world had narrowed to the walls that contained her grief. Each attempt to bridge the chasm of her isolation was met with resounding silence, and with no other immediate family, Olivia was last sighted in September 1991. On February 27, 1994, at roughly 9:30 p.m., an eerie phone call reached the Salina police station. Upon answering, the attendant was met with absolute silence, followed by an abrupt disconnection, as if the caller had abruptly ended the call. Strangely, two more identical calls followed in quick succession. With the absence of any verbal communication and multiple calls, the police initiated a trace to determine the origin of the calls, ultimately leading them to Olivia Mabel's ranch house. Concerned for the caller's well-being, the police paid a visit to the ranch. Upon arrival, an odd sight greeted them as the house appeared tightly sealed, and bore the marks of long abandonment, with the front door unused for so long, resisting any attempt to open it without forceful intervention. In their quest to ensure the safety of those within, the police were left with no choice but to break down the door. Inside, an atmosphere of neglect prevailed, suggesting that no one had inhabited the space for years, with telltale signs evident in the thick layer of dust and the stale air that hung heavy. However, amidst the desolation, one room stood out, Aiden's room, where against all odds, a meticulous order reigned. Everything was neatly arranged in stark contrast to the rest of the house. At the center of the room sat Olivia in a rocking chair, clad in a nightgown and slippers, cradling a crudely fashioned doll crafted from sticks. The doll bore a striking resemblance to a young boy, and was swathed in fragments of Aiden's clothing, clutched tightly in Olivia's embrace. It was at this point that the narrative took a decidedly peculiar turn. Across from Olivia's seat stood a makeshift altar, a solemn tribute to her departed son. On the table, draped with a child-sized blanket, rested a collection of mementos, photographs capturing moments of little Aiden's life, his tender drawings, heartfelt letters scribed by Olivia in the wake of his passing, his cherished toys, flickering candles, blooms of remembrance, and an urn holding the ashes of the young boy. An autopsy would later reveal that Olivia herself had passed away approximately 2 months prior, yet amongst the array, one letter bore a date that aligned precisely with the day the police had arrived at Olivia's residence, and its contents would leave the officers profoundly shaken. It read, "My Aiden, I am sorry, I am so sorry, I should have never let it get like this, I'm leaving. I will not let you keep me, you vile evil creature. Mommy is coming to you Aiden, my sweet Aiden, Mommy loves you." The altar bore telltale signs of Olivia's involvement in an occult ritual, as it was completely cloaked in notes, adorned with inscriptions in an enigmatic language, which was later identified as Sanskrit, with phrases translating to create and resurrect adorning the pages, hinting at Olivia's attempt to summon a tulpa, an otherworldly entity, believed through such arcane practices to reanimate the departed. While the strangeness of this discovery was undeniable, a perplexing question lingered: if Olivia had passed away 2 months ago, who had placed the call to the police from her phone? The officers who discovered Olivia's body found no evidence of an external presence within the house, as all entrances were securely sealed from the inside. Notably, Olivia's phone, covered in a thick layer of dust, was found in a separate room, suggesting it hadn't been used in a considerable span of time. Whom did Olivia denounce as a malevolent entity in her note to her son? Could it be that the tulpa she sought to create had manifested as something far from the benign figure of Aiden, perhaps even possessing a sinister nature that led to Olivia's demise? Francesca Santiago, one of the police officers present at Olivia's residence, later admitted to feeling a palpable unease and an uncanny sense of an additional presence within the house. In fact, there is a recorded interview with Santiago attesting to this perception of malevolence within the premises.
Well, honestly, it still just doesn't make any sense. I remember being there and it was just freezing cold inside that house and it was warm outside. She was just sitting in a chair and I can't tell, we still don't know how long she had been there for. She was just there, dead, and there was a crib in the corner. She wasn't pregnant or anything. No one found anything about that. It was just there. It was, well, very strange, I would say. There were a lot of photos and personal objects on that, and candles, and, well, it's things you actually use to see in what we call santuarios. It's like this place with personal objects of the deceased and certain, how would I describe this? It's like chants or things that are written down like a prayer. And I wouldn't recommend, even if someone put that out there, they were definitely trying to do something that I wouldn't even recommend going into. There was something just really evil in that house. It's the kind of thing that once you mess with it, it just doesn't stop.
She recounted her observation upon entering the residence as, "I spent a lot of time in El Paso and had an uncle that was into some really dark occult stuff. I recognized it immediately when I walked in that room and saw the symbols and the photos on that altar. I felt a strong angry presence looming over me. It was honestly the last thing I expected to see in this town. One of the oddest parts for me is the date on the last letter we found, dated the very day we kicked that swollen door down. The city concluded that she post-dated everything, but I don't believe she was alone in that house, and I don't believe her spirit wasn't still in the room with us that night, but then that makes me the crazy one, right?" Nevertheless, when pressed by journalists for further insight, she adamantly expressed a desire to leave the harrowing tale behind, and implored journalists to refrain from prying into the matter out of respect for her and her family's well-being.
This is former Sergeant Santiago, as in retired. I've dealt with enough harassment on this case. I've moved house, I've moved state, I've moved from everything and the people I've known. I can't deal with this anymore, mentally, emotionally, or physically. So please do not call me anymore, or anyone in my family. Dios quiera que no encuentren lo que están buscando.
In 2005, the Mabels case resurfaced in the media spotlight as it became apparent that their vacant house remained unsellable. Persistent rumors of the house being inhabited by malevolent spirits had prevented the current landlord Christopher Hagen from successfully selling the property. Seeking to dispel these stories, Mr. Hagen enlisted the services of Austin-based paranormal investigator Drew Navarro to ascertain the truth behind this fabled legend. According to Navarro, the moment he stepped foot inside, he was almost overcome by a suffocating atmosphere. "I'm not even sure this was even on our physical plane. In the hundreds of locations I've studied, I've never felt such an imposing force. I couldn't breathe, my heart was constantly racing, its energy kept changing, but none of it felt inviting. Whatever is in there, it's extremely possessive and behaves so erratically, like a jealous child throwing a tantrum. As far as I'm concerned, that house and that entire property should be avoided. It needs serious intervention, because I'm not sure what we're dealing with."
That's how bad it was. The only piece of equipment at this point that we had was a voice recorder.
It is god awful early. I have no idea what time it is. I was just trying to take a nap in the van, and it's real cold in here. It's here. I don't know what to do. Stop. Back away. Get out of here. You have no power over me. You have no power over me. Leave me alone. Johnny, need help. Get away from me. You have no right.
Olivia Mabel's demise is officially recorded as an accident. Nevertheless, numerous online accounts offer various interpretations of the case. The first posits that Olivia succumbed to grief-induced distress, passing away within the confines of her home. Someone stumbled upon her lifeless form but chose not to involve the authorities, instead opting for those peculiar phone calls, leaving behind no discernible traces. The second version proposes that Olivia indeed engaged in a mystical ritual, with some even speculating that it might have contributed to her untimely end. An alternate viewpoint suggests that this narrative may have originated from mere hearsay. Throughout this period, interviews with Olivia's family members were notably absent. However, there are documented interviews with the responding officers and official police records pertaining to the case. It's possible Olivia's relatives simply wished to avoid media intrusion, leading to the absence of any interviews with them. The ultimate truth concerning Olivia Mabel's destiny remains obscured in uncertainty. However, the circumstances of her passing serve to bolster belief in the mystical account.